There's an old saying that goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Well, if this year's HLA season is any indication, that's half true. It was a season unlike any of the others before it, as the league transitioned from Hoop League tactics to Hoopland. Things that used to be fantasies, punchlines to jokes, fouls, free throws, and out of bounds, became reality and reshaped the league overnight. Yet despite all the differences, on a fundamental level, the game remains the same. When the clock strikes 0, there is one winner and one loser. And so, though the story of this season was written in such a dramatically different fashion, it will end the same way as all those before it. With two teams vying for one spot atop the mountain, one championship to immortalize them. How fitting then that it would be these two teams, representing the two extremes of the old and the new. One team that had never even made the playoffs before this year, never mind the final round. One team that has made the playoffs, and now the last stage, more than any other. One set of up-and-comers, one set of old-timers. The team who had never won anything before this year, versus the team that won the first trophy ever, and that has been looking for its second since. The way this story ends will be decided in one last best-of-7 series. Will the young risers ascend to the summit, heralding a new era? Or will the veterans refuse to yield and make those darling hopefuls sing the blues? How much will things change? How much will they stay the same? The last chapter of this Hoops League Association Season 9 story begins now. This is the Hoops League Association on Hoops League TV. Tonight, it's the Chicago Blues against the Vancouver Summit. The Season 9 HLA Finals on Hoops League TV. The day has finally arrived, and the Chicago Blues and the Vancouver Summit are waiting on the other side. Only one will emerge victorious in this Season 9 edition of the Hoops League Association Finals. I'm Cyclopsic, joined by Assassin once again, as we bring you a presentation that has long been waiting, not just for us, but for these two teams. For Chicago, if you can believe it, it's the first time that they appear in the Hoops League final round since Season 3, when they lost in a heartbreaker to an upstart Portland Roses team that was the number 4 seed in their conference. Now, the Blues are themselves coming from the last official playoff spot in the East, having toppled Indiana in the play-in, having toppled the number 1 seeded New York Empire in the first round, and having beaten back their budding rivals, the Atlanta Talons, to get back. On the other side, from the West, they face the Vancouver Summit, a very, very hungry team that had never even made the playoffs before this season, but now finds itself 4 wins away from an inaugural championship. What a build-up this has been, Assassin. What an unbelievable series. If I told you before the season that we were going to have Chicago and Vancouver to be the deciding teams for the Season 9 championship, you probably would have told me to go to the doctor and get my head checked. But here we are with the two teams that snuck into the playoffs. Vancouver by winning 12 of 15. Chicago by winning 15 of 18. And now, having both beaten the number 1 seeds in their conference, they are on the cusp of a championship. What do you make of this matchup?
I mean, it's a storybook kind of matchup, isn't it, Cyclops? I mean, you're talking about two teams that I don't think anybody in their right mind expected to be here. And we've been watching the Blues a long time now, and I think even we thought they were on their last legs, get in on a play-in team, and they get to this stage. And for the Summit, you mentioned it, they have gone from not a playoff team to the finals. I mean, you literally couldn't have written a better storybook finish for this season.
The first season in Hoopland, as the intro video mentioned, and what a pairing we have for it. The Summit, obviously, we've emphasized now, one of the least successful, arguably the least successful franchise in the league's history prior to this season. And they catch lightning in a bottle. And they're
Well, you
going up
talk about
against.
Vancouver.
There you go.
You talk about Vancouver, a team that has been worst so many times. How vindicating for an organization, for a player base, for a fan base, for their team to be down and out and ridiculed by the league over and over to get to the playoffs in their first year, be 4 wins away from a title. I mean, I cannot imagine the excitement for the Vancouver fans, and I am genuinely happy that they are here.
And it's going to be loud in Peaks Park, you can bet. Already is just on our side of that set. For Chicago on the other side, talked about them plenty in the build-up. What a fitting opponent for the Summit. We were talking about this before the game. How unbelievable it is to think that this is their first time back in 6 seasons. With the core of Yensid, Jaga, and Shaka Zulu, it has felt like they've been on the cusp of a championship, in that conversation, always contending for their entire 9 year existence. And now they're finally back. What a chance for them to go out into the sunset with this core and win one last ring.
Yeah, Cyclops. I mean, we were riding in on the bus. You told me, this the first time they've been back since season 3, and I was like, there's no way that's correct. But it is, and for a team that we've gotten so accustomed to watching over and over, it is a chance for them to have their storybook ending. It reminds me very much of a movie. You've got the established veterans who feel like they've been here, done that, they've won it all before, and you've got an upstart young team in Vancouver. But look, I know that this Chicago team is old, but they got here for a reason. They have that experience. I know that there's not a doubt in their mind on that sideline that they can win this series, and they're going to give it everything they got.
We are ready to see them do it. What a series and what a game we're going to have today. Vancouver and Chicago on the other side of the break. A look at our starting lineups before we get going in this one. Starting with the visiting Chicago Blues, as Vancouver earned the right to host, having the better regular season record of the two. Sindor Drago, the longtime point guard who won a championship in season 7 with Miami. He's one of only 3 players in league history to win multiple championships. He could become the first to win 3 championships if Chicago goes on to take this series. Walter Yensid, normally it wouldn't be a question about who was starting. In fact, it would be Raja Rose, as Yensid was on the bench for the first time in his career throughout the season, but took over the role in the series against Atlanta on account of his defense. He has been excellent in vintage form throughout these playoffs. Samuel James, the season 1 scoring champion at the small forward position, joined by Danny Dingus, the former Vancouver Summit and Denver altitude player, now singing the blues, has been the starting power forward ever since about that mid mark of the season. They put him in the lineup over Shaka Zulu and started winning games. And finally, the last member of that triumvirate of Yensid, Zulu, and Jaga is Jaga C. The man in the middle had a great case for the season 1 finals MVP, ended up losing out on it to Yensid. We'll have to see if his defensive prowess can help Chicago capture another championship. Sass, before we move over to Vancouver, your thoughts on this Chicago lineup?
Yeah, I mean, it's experience. You mentioned Drago's championship experience on this stage. Uh, you know, Samuel James, a great player in his own right, who his career from being at the top of superstar mention in league history was really just derailed by injuries. Jagassi, a defensive powerhouse, but the guy I'm obviously looking at is Walter Yensid. I don't care that he's 36 years old. I've watched the man play for the last 9 years, Cyclops, and we both know that that man is a difference maker. He's the veteran leader and the experience that Vancouver's got to worry about.
And indeed, that is what the Summit sorely lack. None of the players in the starting lineup have made the finals before this. Only Jordan Covington had playoff experience. So starting in that guard backcourt for Vancouver, Zay Kighton has been tremendous all playoffs long. Covington gets the attention for his scoring, but Kighton averaging a double-double in the playoffs, heading into this game in the playoffs, averaging 18.4 points per game and 17.1 assists. That would be the highest mark in league history outside of Von Brunson if he were to be able to hold it up. Covington is the man at shooting guard. Jordan Covington, we always knew he had it in him to put on these runs. Only averaged 21 points per game throughout the regular season. Now up to 36.8 on an incredible playoffs-long heater. He has been phenomenal. Joshua Owens, the former number 1 overall pick of Vancouver, back in season 4 after Chicago last made the finals, averaging 6.6 points per game in these playoffs, but also adding a lot on the glass and defensively. And then it's the front court dynamic duo of James Murray and Jamison J. Lee. Between the two of them, dominant on the glass, assertive in the paint on defense, and capable of putting together points in the paint, something that we don't normally see in today's game. Assassin, back to you on the Summit.
Yeah, so I mentioned experience with Chicago, and you get that experience from being veterans. What Vancouver lacks in experience, they gain in fresh legs. This team is much younger, and they are going to be able to run up and down the floor a lot longer. So we're going to see the tale old story, Cyclops, of experience versus ability. And look, Jordan Covington, the guy Chicago's worried about, that's why Yensid's defense is going to be huge, because Jordan Covington is averaging 37 points per game in this postseason. He is going to be the man to watch all series.
We'll have to see if the old Blues can put a stop to him. It's Vancouver, it's Chicago, and it's the Season 9 HLA Finals getting started right now. Tip is won by Vancouver, and we are off. A loud arena here in Peaks Park to see James Murray get the game started with the first points of the Season 9 Finals. Shook off Danny Dingus like it was nothing. It puts Vancouver on top. Drago misses that 3 up top, and you see the double team approach already on Sindor Drago to start this one. Have to see if they keep that up. Covington shakes off Yensid. Well, no problem with his defense there, Assassin.
Yeah, I like the approach from Vancouver early to go on the inside. I don't like that shot Drago took on the first possession to go quick. I think Chicago, we talked about experience. I want them to use that experience, slow the game down. Right now, Vancouver's approach is just to get their legs behind them in the biggest series of the year, and they are doing that. 3 buckets in the paint, 3 easy buckets, getting to see the ball go through the hoop, that matters.
As Kighton slipped through there, now they bring the double on Yensid. He gets close, able to feed it back to Dingus. Time blocked by Murray. Dingus got it back after it ping-ponged around and able to lay it in. Kighton finds Murray. Mid-range jumper's good. That's something he can do. James Murray, one of the best inside-out men at that 4 and 5 spot. And he puts Vancouver up by 6. Dingus to Yensid. Now Drago will take a 3. Again, no good. Owens on the glass for the Summit.
Yeah, and I'm really not loving the Chicago offensive approach. I am loving the Vancouver approach right there. That is a too much space to give this Vancouver lineup. In Vancouver, they're just playing smart offense right now. Really nothing negative to say. Finally, Chicago gets an easy one, but man, for a team this experienced, and for a point guard this experienced, I'm a little disappointed in what Chicago's offense has been up to so far.
Well, maybe that feed to Dingus will hearken an offensive improvement as Owens will knock down a three, giving a lot of space to your point on the perimeter, and Vancouver so far able to exploit them. How about this start with regards to Vancouver's perimeter offense coming from James Murray and Joshua Owens?
I mean, Cyclops, I'm just wondering why they're leaving them wide open out there. I mean, look, I get it. They're not the greatest shooters in the world, but you give a guy open space. I mean, they spend time in a gym, open gym, practicing those shots. You never give a guy a shot he practices, and again, sagging off of James Murray. If you're going to let Vancouver shoot wide open shots like they're in practice, they're going to make them. For a team this experienced on defense, it's a bit surprising.
There was Yensid missing a wide open layup as Covington is fouled by Yensid. We will head to the line. What a start for the Summit. And Rajah Rose going to check into this game perhaps to give Chicago a bit more of an offensive infusion. So with him at the line, let's talk about Jordan Covington. Gets just his third and fourth points of the game so far. Obviously, Murray has been the star to start. But what a playoffs he has had. You look at his percentages as Jaga kicks it out here. And Dingus able to get that little push shot to go. Danny Dingus with the first 6 points of the game for Chicago, by the way. I didn't have that one on my bingo card. As Covington...
Absolutely not. And as Covington shoots that one, let's talk about him. I mean, he has been a difference maker. And, you know, I am always one to say that you make your name in the playoffs. You know, you can have all the regular season numbers and whatnot. It's the numbers in the playoffs that everyone's going to remember. Jordan Covington's name is going in the history books, win or lose this series. Zay Kighton gets an easy layup.
As you say there about Covington, the difference between his regular season and playoff performance, palpable. Clear that he has elevated his game. From 67.7% in the field at 64.1 from three, up to 73 as Lee will hook that one in from the field, and 67.9 from deep. Now some changes will bring Covington out of the game, and why not? With Vancouver up 16 points in the first quarter, and Chicago just can't get anything to go. Reese Konecko, the only player outside of Aaron Fiedelack, who's also on the floor, that has been here before. He and Fiedelack, both members of the Season 1 finals, albeit on opposite sides. Konecko with Portland and Fiedelack with Chicago. Fiedelack, the only one who has won a championship. He did so with Boston in Season 6. 25 and Season 1 with Chicago. That one missed by Rose. 25-6, Vancouver leading it with 40 seconds to go here. Romaine Parker, acquired mid-season from Portland, will add on to the herd. What an unbelievable start on both ends of the floor for the Vancouver Summit so far. Rose.
Yeah, you can tell they're hungry. You can tell they want it bad, as Rajah Rose will miss that one. This team, it's really been a team effort, and that's what you want to see in the first quarter of a game, is they have let everybody get a chance to touch the ball, get
Look
a
at
feel
Marcus
for the game. Marcus Smith making a huge play there. There's really nobody on Vancouver having a bad night right now, and Chicago, I have to say, I hate to call a guy out in the first quarter. This is a horrible job by the coaching staff right now.
Konecko misses the three that would have given Vancouver a 26-point lead. As it stands, 29-6. Yes, 29-6. The Summit up after one. We'll roll straight into our second quarter action here. No need to discuss the action too much. The scoreboard says it all. A 23-point advantage for the hometown Summit. My goodness, take a breath. I mean, as Rose misses that three, where is Chicago's offense going to come from, Assassin?
Well, it has to come from setting up plays, as we see Fiedelack get a wide open three and nail a shot from downtown. Look, I get it. Chicago, you haven't been here in a few seasons. You're trying to get your legs underneath you. This is not how you do it. Right now, their offense is not generating good, clean looks, and we're ending up in too many isolation possessions for a team that should be smarter than this, as Alex speaks over me with his shot in an ISO possession.
Well, but to your point, the only points prior to that, and this is going to be a trivia question in a few years, folks. The only points prior to that possession as Fiedelack misses that three for Chicago came from Danny Dingus. He scored all 6 of their points in the first quarter.
Right, Cyclops, and all of those were off of passes. 2 of them off a direct pass, and 1 of them off of a rebound, which was basically a pass off the block. As Moore will back down his man to the rim for a slam dunk. Finally, some interior offense from Chicago. But for a team this experienced, I just wasn't expecting them to come out getting outplayed schematically by Vancouver, but that's what's been the case.
Marcus Smith misses that one off the side of the backboard. Tyler Moore's experience certainly could play a difference in this one. Coming off the bench to have a guy who's been on a championship-winning team. He won in Season 2 with Boston as Vancouver grabs that one. An ill-advised 3 from Zulu. But also, to your point, perhaps the pressure is on Chicago given that, let's face it, they should be the favorites in this series given how they have been here before, how they have championship pedigree. Vancouver, yes, they've played better throughout the playoffs, but Chicago has been under the bright lights. You wouldn't know it based on how this game has started. Perhaps that's attributable to pressure, as Zulu escapes some pressure there and able to get his first points. Great feed from Jaga.
Well, when it comes to this Vancouver team, I don't think, and I think that's part of youthful ignorance, you know? They don't really care who is supposed to win what. You know, this team has gone out there, they said we're going to do our best every single night as they leave Zulu wide open. So not doing their best on that possession there. He was wide open. Jaga C also wide open into the rim. So not their best effort there, but look, they are going out there, they're ready to play ball, and they went here in home court in front of the fans, and they said we're going to play the best basketball we can play. And Chicago hasn't taken the game to them, and for a team with experience, they should know, in a finals, game 1, to set the tone, you take the game to the opponent.
Yes, James Murray will check back in. He certainly took the game to the opponent in that first quarter. Covington has really struggled early, but it hasn't hurt them so far, although Chicago is recovering a little bit. Great feed there. Oh, but Zulu could not get it. Missed the little push shot. Maybe thought the shot clock was winding down. Had to put that one up. Chitin running the 2-man game. Oh, he is so slick and just able to weave his way.
Spin right to the rim. You really can't do it any better.
And he has been doing that all playoffs. Wide open is Zulu, able to get that one to go. Shaka Zulu starting to put it together for Chicago. Still down 18, but looking much better of late. Owens got that one underneath. He was well defended by Yensid, couldn't get it. There is Jaga up top as Chicago tries to get into its offense. Flare out to Drago. Double team comes on him. Gets it into Jaga. Good feed. Good finish. And we are seeing the Blues have success attacking the rim later into the second quarter. Covington pulls on a 3.
What they should have been do as Covington nails that 3, finally getting himself going. Maybe a bit of concern for Chicago if he starts hitting, but for Chicago's offense, that's what you want to see from them. You want them to score off of passes because it is where they are best. You want them to make the extra passes. Right now, Vancouver has said, as they just did on that possession, that they're going to double the perimeter. If they're going to double the perimeter, this paint is wide open, Cyclops.
And it was not very open for Zulu there. Perhaps should have kicked that one out, but sent it off the front of the rim. With a minute to go here in the second quarter, it's 37-18. A gaudy margin up for Vancouver, but it has been closer of late. That one well defended as Chicago tightens the screws on that end of the floor. Rose, who has struggled mightily in this half, gets it out to Yensid, who knocks down the 3. And it only felt like a matter of time till that happened. Walter Yensid gets himself on the final scoreboard and cuts the lead for Vancouver down to 16. Murray, mid-range, left it short. Well defended by Zulu, the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, making his presence felt. Yensid facing tight defense on the perimeter. They pass it around the horn, and there's Jaga with a drive. Aggressively takes it to the rack, and now it's a 14-point game. About a 12-second difference here between shot and game clock. Pardon, you go ahead now, partner.
And I'm not a big fan of Vancouver's approach defensively with how they have played that interior, but I'm very happy to see Chicago finally start to work their way in as Jay Lee does the same the other way.
Took advantage of some lax defense there. Rose finally gets one to go. He missed his first 5 shots, but able to get that layup. 5 seconds to go, the shot clock off. Chitin working on Drago. One-on-one, just gonna put it into Covington, but the clock expired. Bit lazy with the time management there, but it doesn't matter in as much as the half's fate was already decided. A decisive margin on the scoreboard for the Summit, leading at 39-25 at the break. Despite a much improved effort from Chicago, perhaps that presages a second half development. We'll break it down for you at the half. Welcoming to the half point of this Game 1 of the Season 9 HLA Finals, the Summit, home squad, with some very happy fans as they lead Chicago 39-25 at the break. But the Blues showing some signs of life, especially later in the second quarter. Assassin, your thoughts on that first half? What stood out to you from either side?
Yeah, so what stands out to me is actually the second half and how the approach is vastly different for these two teams. Probably the opposite of what you would have guessed if I approached you with these two opposites pregame. And it's that Vancouver, they're going to play this game up by 14. And what that means is they just have to protect the lead. Defense is going to be their main focus in that second half, and it needs to be, because they gave up the paint a lot in that second quarter. Just straight drives from the perimeter to the paint. They were over doubling on that perimeter. Got to shut that down. For Chicago, it's simple. The second quarter, you started to put together some offense, and your defense looked a little bit better. Obviously not perfect defensively. It hasn't been for either team. They're getting their legs under them. But before Chicago, you want to hammer home that defensive experience. You've been here, done that 100 times. Your top performer is Jaga C. He's a man who made his name for defense. I'm expecting Chicago to go out there and really bring the game to Vancouver if that second quarter is anything to indicate how they want to play the rest of this game.
We have discussed, perhaps ad nauseum, the impact of experience, and you mentioned now how the roles seemed reversed initially. Maybe the second quarter was evidence of Chicago having the advantage in being able to make adjustments to what Vancouver came out with. A 29-6 margin in the first quarter, clearly to the Summit's extreme advantage. But Chicago understood what Vancouver was doing to them, and they came out and adjusted themselves accordingly. Now, down 14 with 10 minutes to go, 2 quarters, anything could happen. What needs to change for Vancouver to match the adjustments that Chicago's made?
Yeah, well, for Vancouver, it's very simple. Clog the paint. I mean, when Chicago was taking jump shots, in all due respect to this team, they were not making them in the first quarter. It was a huge difference between now. I mean, you mentioned it just before the break. Raja Rose started 0 for 5. They are doubling Sindor Drago. They're doubling Walter Yensid. They're doubling that perimeter offense. And I understand you're scared of the shooters catching fire. You're going to die by 1,000 cuts letting them score easy twos on the inside, because trust me, a team that experienced is not going to miss a layup very often.
That they are not, and certainly put together a better offensive performance did the Blues in that second quarter. We'll see if they can keep it together for the third and beyond. If they do, we might just have ourselves a game. 39-25 at the break. Second half of basketball on the other side. Starting lineups back in to start this third quarter, and Sindor Drago will bring it up the floor. Double team comes once again. That is clearly the strategy, and it's going to leave wide open people in the paint if they can find him. There's Jaga with the back door more open than a 7-Eleven at 3 a.m. getting to the rack.
And what did I say, Cyclops? Death by 1,000 cuts. Don't let it happen, Vancouver.
Especially backdoor cuts. That one missed by Owens on the wide open mid-range. Those shots were falling in the first half. A bit of a subdued presence, albeit though the fans are coming back from their halftime snacking. Danny Dingus had a good first half, missed that one, well defended. It was by Jamison J. Lee. And Zay Chitin will find Jordan Covington, who didn't have the best first half, but able to knock down that three. And boy, if he can get it going, Assassin, this is going to be a very different game.
Yeah, if Jordan Covington starts putting up the numbers he's been putting up in this postseason to this point, as the Zike Heighton comes away with the steal, this game isn't even going to matter about Vancouver's defense. So I would be very hesitant if I have Chicago to let that man get his rhythm, even if I have to play a little bit tougher on him than I want to.
Owens, meanwhile, not able to find his rhythm, misses another one. Drago loops it into Dingus, who hesitates and then throws it down. Could be death by 1,000 dunks if this keeps up. As it stands,
Well,
still a
it's looking that
13-point
way.
advantage.
Vancouver really hasn't made any defensive adjustments. Covington getting the layup in. If there's one man that's made an adjustment for Vancouver, it's Jordan Covington, and he's decided he wants to win this game as Dingus goes in for another slam.
And that time, Jamison J. Lee looked like he was gonna rotate, but was just a bit late. Dingus with a playoffs high 10 points for him, as Murray able to lay that one and shook off Dingus at the other end. 46-31, as Yensid now gets inside, and how about that? The 36-year-old can still get off the floor. Throws that
He's
one
still
down.
a world-class player. Absolutely incredible, his longevity, Cyclops.
Don't let anybody call that man Unk when we're around. Covington, how about that? Big body from the perimeter hunting point guard. Spartan shooting guard, able to get that one in. He already has 7 points in the second half. He had 7 in the whole first half. That one missed by Dingus. Murray. Feed it to Lee. Lee working on Jog. Oh, that's a tough shot. He's one of the best defenders in the game. Jamison J. Lee leading the playoffs in rebounding as Jaga will pay him back with a dunk at the other end. You have to be really happy for a guy like Lee, though, playing with Vancouver in the finals. He's played his entire 5-year career there, and he has been one of their most consistent contributors, was one of the best rebounders in the league this season. Covington will knock down that three as he stripes another one. An 18-point advantage for the Summit, and it's exactly the point we made. If he takes over, it doesn't matter what adjustments you do or don't make defensively, as Dingus with another push lay-in.
Well, it really feels like Cyclops at halftime. The only talk that happened between Vancouver was Jordan Covington telling the team, hey, thanks guys for getting us this lead. Now let me go win us this game. Because that's all we've been seeing in this third quarter, Cyclops, and Chicago cannot catch up.
Dingus shooting threes certainly isn't the best method of catching up. He'll miss that one. Rose will check in, perhaps to give them a bit more of a perimeter boost. Covington mid-range defended, didn't matter. He is on fire from the elbow now, and he's up to 19 points in what feels like the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, Dingus had the layup, passed it up, kicks out, skip pass. James misses the three.
And Cyclops, this whole sequence, the Jordan Covington tough shot into that disaster of a possession for Chicago, into a James Murray bucket, is enough to tell you where this game is headed. Vancouver has decided here in this third quarter, this game is over. And as much as we would all like to see Chicago put up a fight as Rajah Rose gets that sky hook, they have not adjusted in this third period. You know, we thought maybe in the second period that they were going to put it together and start to bring this lead down. Jordan Covington has ripped them a new one as he knocks down another three-pointer.
A lot of credit has to be given to everybody in the Vancouver locker room for the adjustments that they have made at the break. Obviously, Covington taking over, but the defense has really tightened up as this third quarter has gone along. Now a 21-point advantage on the scoreboard, 60-39 with 42 seconds to go. And we're almost 75% through the game. Chitin will try a three, no good. Owens offensive rebound. Backing down on James, missed that one, and it has not been Joshua Owens' game, but it hasn't mattered.
Even though Owens misses that one and James scores against him, Cyclops, it's just the fact that they got the offensive board. I mean, in a game where you're down by 20 pretty much, you have to hustle harder. And obviously we know this team is older, and this was the question, was can they keep up physically with the younger team? You're down 20, you just simply have to do better.
Chicago trying to take advantage of the last possession of the quarter here. Shot clock winding down, and Alex unable to get it to go, and that will conclude this third quarter. Jaga, the leading scorer for Chicago, a concerning development for the Blues, down 19 after 3. Vancouver en route to their first finals victory. So we'll go right into the fourth quarter here as Fidalak and the bench are in for the Summit. Reese Koneko working on Dingus. We'll go back out to Fidalak. Then Landon Curry, whose name we have not called much, switched to the bench this year to accommodate Jordan Covington, who was one of the last players signed in free agency, it bears mentioning. Was in talks with the San Diego Surf. Then they pivoted, wound up going to Vancouver, where he had played in a previous season before being traded to the Boston Charms back in Season 7. And really, the experiences that Covington has had playing for Boston, playing for an Indiana team that flamed out in the playoffs, you have to think that's informed his success in flipping the switch as Moore flips around and throws that one down. But Covington, exactly to that point, he has really turned it up, and you have to think that the previous playoff failures and previous time in the Vancouver locker room have made that possible.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just have to, as Moore swats that one to the court side. You know, how a player is developed matters a lot. And, you know, we talk about young talent that flame out. And, yeah, there's the guys that were too lazy to go after it. But for a guy like Covington and the experience he's had, that absolutely has mattered to his development and his ability to play in this game without the nerves that a lot of young guys leading a team to this place, to this series for the first time might have. And, you know, I'll tell you what, neither Curry nor Covington are feeling any regrets about the decisions they made.
Those decisions have gotten them to the cusp of the championship as James misses a point-blank layup. Chicago was rolling a little bit before that, but Vancouver will take it the other way now. Perhaps it's a case of too little too late here, but if Chicago were to turn it around as Parker will knock down that three, what would it take for Chicago to at least make this game, you know, do a little bit of window dressing? So perhaps the question I'm asking is, what needs to change for them going into game 2?
I mean, this is the moment where fans back in Chicago, they load up HLA 2K and they get to turn in the sliders to 0 and just start avenging this loss. And the Vancouver Summit are not losing this game.
Right. But so heading into this game 2, it'll be a 1-0 advantage for Vancouver. If you are in the Chicago locker room, you know, if you are Mehdi Aziz right now, what is the message you're sending to your guys heading into game 2?
Well, I think it's time to reflect, you know. How bad do we want this thing? You know, we talked about this being a storybook ending to the season. Why is it a storybook ending, Cyclops? Because this team won the first championship. This is a chance for a ride off into the sunset for Jagassi, for Zolu, for Walter Yensid, even for a guy like Samuel James, who has fought through adversity his entire career. This is a chance for those guys to go out on their own terms, and there is no better term than winning the entire league. And for them to come out here looking this flat, I think it's a real moment for them, right? They were on a high. They were probably heading into this game feeling like, hey, we're the old heads, but we still got it. We schooled all these teams to get here. And this is a humbling moment where the student comes up to you and tells you something you never thought of. And as the teacher, you've got to take time to reflect on what you know. And that's where Chicago is right now, because this is not the best version of Chicago. They can be better. They can compete in this series, but it's going to have to come from within, from them looking at the game and doing better, because they came out with a flat game plan, and frankly, they didn't make shots.
That they did not. The field goal percentage, don't have final numbers on it quite yet, but it has been abysmal. Gozi Nwosu, as the deep bench players are in, misses that one. Jeffrey Gomez, the only rookie appearing in this last season, took a Seton Hall team very similar to Vancouver that no one expected to do much, not only through the Big East tournament, but also into the tournament, and then a first-round upset of the heavily favored Texas Tech squad. Now he has the ball in his hands.
As a bit of an old head in this space, you know, I have to say it's always good to hear a story about Texas Tech losing.
That is a sentiment shared by many. Drago rebounds that one. It was given to him by Zavon Carter. Great feed to Buckets. Oh my goodness! Blocked from behind by Owens. Refusing to let Ben's Buckets dress the scoreboard up at all.
And you know, you have to respect that from Owens, because that is putting your all until the final buzzer. And you can't help, Cyclops. I love this Chicago team. I've watched and I've called them. Both of us have for many years now. But you can't help but feel excitement for the fans in this crowd around us who have not sat down since the middle of the third quarter. You can't help but feel excited for this team, the energy around them. This could be the ascension of something truly special for a team to go from the slumps to this stage, and you can't help but feel like they have earned their moment to play their hearts out in this moment.
Well, they certainly did in this game one. As we wind down here, Vancouver boasting a 14-point advantage. Owens will make it 17. One thing to say about Joshua Owens, he struggled through most of this game. He has not lost confidence at all. Kept shooting, and he's now crossed into double digits. Really happy to see that for a guy who has waited a long time to have his chance for Vancouver. Pick number 1 back in season 4 with so much promise.
And you've got to credit Vancouver for never giving up on a guy like that. You know, it's easy for them to see the results that they had and to give up on a guy like Owens, you know, and try to trade him as part of a prospect deal. And they took him in. They said, no, you're going to be our guy. You're going to be here when we do something like this. And that kind of belief pays off. And that is why they are up 1-0 in the HLA Finals.
And it is official now, 77-63. As the clock strikes 0 on this game 1. Vancouver with a dominant effort that even the scoreboard arguably doesn't show the completeness of. A 14-point wire-to-wire victory. They never trailed. They never led by less than 10 after the first quarter. And truly a dominant effort from a team that, as it stands, still has only lost twice in the entire playoffs. Once to San Francisco and once to Los Angeles. 3 wins away from their inaugural championship, but still plenty of basketball left to be played. Jordan Covington earns the Player of the Game honors after a 24-point effort, 17 of which came in the second half. But really, Assassin, this was a team win for Vancouver.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the first quarter, when Jordan Covington wasn't the usual Jordan Covington we've come to know throughout this postseason, the rest of the team made their bread and butter. They stepped up and they said, we got here just as much as Jordan Covington did. And you know, that's the thing with sports. The star is always going to be at the forefront, name on the poster, name on the hype up videos and the media interviews. But every single player on Vancouver earned the right to be here, and they proved that for 4 quarters tonight. And the effort that they put in cannot be understated. I ragged on their defense after that second quarter. I think you and I can both agree, in that second half, that defense was a lot better.
We talked plenty about the players, but what an unbelievable job by Gerard Dickerson and the rest of the Vancouver coaching staff to prepare them for this game, number 1, and to make the in-game adjustments that we criticized them for not making in the second quarter throughout the second half. Truly an impressive, comprehensive effort from the entire Summit organization that went into this game 1. But it is just one game. And there were moments where the Chicago Blues looked like the Chicago Blues we are used to seeing, even if they were few and far between. What do you expect out of this Chicago team heading towards game 2, especially as we review the box score and look to see a really poor shooting effort from the perimeter?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit at the end of this game, Cyclops. Reflection. I'm expecting this team to sit in what will be the longest bus ride back to the hotel that they have had to sit through in a long time. And I'm counting on that group, a group of veterans, a group of guys who have been on this stage or similar stages before for their careers. And I'm expecting them to go out there into practice tomorrow with that coaching staff and say, that is not the way that our story ends. That is not the way Walter Yensid contemplates retirement. And so for this team, it simply is a matter of execution. We already know they have the talent, Cyclops. I don't have to tell you that Walter Yensid is a world-class player, and he has been a world-class player for 9 years now. I don't have to tell you that Jagasi is one of the best defenders the league will ever see. But this team did not have it tonight, so they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. They're going to have to drop some plays. They're going to have to shore up that defensive strategy. But they can hit shots, and they're going to go out there in Game 2 with a new mentality. Or they're going to give Vancouver a lot of momentum. And I'm counting that this team knows they can't let that happen.
That they cannot. If it's more of the same in the future, it's going to be a very long and yet very short season ender for Chicago. But if we know anything about the Blues, they're going to make it tough for Vancouver on the road there. Again, 77-63, Vancouver flattens Chicago and sharpens their own approach to duel those Blues in Game 1. That'll conclude this presentation of the Season 9 Hoops League Finals, but you can expect more of the same in terms of this broadcast for the rest of the series. I've been Cyclops. I've been joined by Assassin. You've been watching the Hoops League on Hoops League TV. Have a wonderful night.